This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right. Fact Check This podcast. And today, this 3 weeks. I'm 3 weeks out, like 3 weeks to the day from having surgery on my esophagus, and I cannot fucking wait. I've been fine all morning. Literally, as soon as I hit go live, everything starts giving me problems. 3 weeks, and I'll have surgery, and then I'll be done with this, and then you can start the month-long recovery process. Get my life back to normal, gain all the weight that I've lost back, and have a normal life. So today, if you watch or listen to Peddling Fiction, I had teased on Tuesday's episode that today was going to be a twofer. I had an article I was going to do last week, and then Katie had a doctor's appointment and some other stuff last Thursday morning that I was notified of on Wednesday afternoon, because if you have kids, that's how this works. So I ended up having to run her all over the place for her doctor's appointments and then school. And by the time I got home, it was time for my wife to get home from work and supper, and it just didn't work out. So on Tuesday, I had teased that today I would do a twofer. We're going to do the Why Do Rich People Love Quiet, which is what we're going to do on this one. And then after that, I was going to do one about why women are done with dating. Well, Two for Thursday doesn't sound quite as catchy as Two for Tuesday. So we're going to have a three-way Thursday. Yes, because I found another article called Make America Procreate Again among the MAGA fertility fanatics. So today we'll be doing 3 of these. And if you happen to watch on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, you will be getting all 3 of them back to back to back. If you listen to the podcast, the first one, which we're doing right now, Why Do Rich People Love Quiet, will be coming out today. And then the one about why are women leaving dating will be coming out on Tuesday. And then Making America Procreate Again will be out next Thursday. So if you are a Rumble subscriber or a podcast subscriber, you will be getting those on a release schedule. But if you watch on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, you're getting all 3 of them back to back to back this morning. And also that's why I'm starting so early. For those who are watching the video and notice, oh, he did this like 3 hours ago. Yes, I am getting an early jump on my day. My wife and stepdaughter and dogs decided that sleeping in was not going to be in the cards for me today. That's why I normally, people give me a hard time about this. I sleep out here. I sleep right there more often than not, because I can't sleep in the house. I like between the dogs, and my wife gets up a lot, and then sometimes the kids wake up in the middle of the night and just come over there. And then when the kids come over there to either get something out of the refrigerator or whatever, they have their own house. They have their own shit in their own refrigerator, but they want to come to our house. Anyway, when the kids come in, the dogs get up and go nuts, and it's... So I sleep right there most of the time. And I'm perfectly happy with that. And I think everybody else is perfectly happy with that too. No complaints. So anyway, we're starting early because my family did not give me an option today. And I'm ready to do this. I'm really ready to do this. Why do rich people love quiet? The sound of gentrification is silence. By somebody tell me how to pronounce this name Gonzalez. Joshidal? We're going with Joshidal. I'm not sure. It's somebody from one of those incredibly loud demographics that rich people, and by rich people I mean white people, that rich people are trying to escape from. So, diving in. New York in the summer is a noisy place, especially if you don't have money. The rich run off to the Hamptons or Maine. The bourgeoisie are safely shielded by the hum of their central air, their petite cousins by the roar of their window units. But for the broke, the have-littles, and the have-nots, summer means an open window through which the clatter of the city becomes the soundtrack of life. Motorcycles revving, buses braking, couples squabbling, children summoning one another out to play, and music, ceaseless music. I remember the summer before I left for college, lying close to my bedroom box fan, taking it all in. Thanks to a partial scholarship and a ton of loans, I was on my way to an Ivy League college. I was counting down the days till eager to ditch the concrete sidewalks and my family's cramped railroad apartment and start living life on my own terms. Against a backdrop of lush, manicured lawns and stately architecture. I didn't yet know that you don't live on an Ivy League campus. You reside on one. Living is loud and messing, but residing is quiet business. I first arrived on campus for the minority student orientation. The welcome event had the feel of a block party. Blasey blasting on a boombox. It was the 90s. We spent those first few nights convening in one another's rooms, gossiping and dancing until late. We were learning to find some comfort in this new place and with one another. Then the other students arrived, the white students. The first day of classes was marked by such gloriously waspy pomp that it made my young, aspirational heart leap. Professors in academic regalia gave speeches about centuries-old traditions and how wonderful and unique we were. The best class yet. Kids sang a cappella and paraded with a marching band. I'd spent my high school years sneaking out at night to drink 40s on the beach and scheming my way into clubs. I understood that what was happening around me wasn't exactly cool, but it was special, and I was part of it. I just hadn't counted on everything that followed being so quiet. The hush crept up on me fast. First, I would be hanging out with my friends from orientation when one of our new roommates would start ostentatiously readying themselves for bed at a surprisingly early hour. Hints would be taken, eyes would be rolled, and we'd call it a night. One day, when I accidentally sat down to study in the library's absolutely quiet room, fellow students shooed me into shame for putting on my Discman. With rare exception, like Saturday nights during rush, silence blanketed the campus. You were in the library's absolutely quiet room in the 90s with a Walkman or a Discman. For anybody who's not old enough to remember, Discman headphones were not exactly things that they weren't noise canceling. Like, they were a flimsy little piece of metal with a couple of pieces of plastic, and everybody, unless you had it turned down so low that you even couldn't hear it, everybody within a 5-foot radius of you could hear what was going on, what was going into your ears. So yeah, if you're in the absolutely quiet room, be absolutely fucking quiet. Like, I soon realized that silence was more than the absence of noise. It was an aesthetic to be revered. Yet it was an aesthetic at odds with who I was and who a lot of us were. It's crazy. I just talked about my problems with sleeping and stuff and how I sleep out here because I want absolute quiet. Within a few weeks, the comfort that I and many of my fellow minority students had felt during those early cacophonous days had been eroded, one chastisement at a time. The passive-aggressive signals to wind our gatherings down were replaced by point-blank requests to make less noise, have less fun, do our living somewhere else, even though these rooms belong to us too. A boisterous conversation would lead to a classmate knocking on the door with a "please quiet down." A laugh that went a bit too loud or long in a computer cluster would be met with an admonishment. In those moments, I felt hot with shame and anger, yet unable to articulate why. It took me years to understand that in demanding my friends and I quiet down, these students were implying that their comfort superseded our joy. And in acquiescing, I accepted that. I had taken the sounds of home for granted. My grandmother's bellows from across the apartment, my friends screaming my name from the street below my window, the garbage trucks, the car alarms, the fireworks set off nowhere near the 4th of July, the music. I had thought these were the sounds of poverty, of being trapped. I realized in their absence that they were the sounds of my identity, turned up to 11. I loved the learning I did in college, academic and cultural, and I managed to have a lot of fun in the spaces that the students of color claimed as our own. We had our own dormitories, our own hangouts. We even co-opted a room in the computer center where we could work the way we preferred, with Victor Manuel or Selena playing in the background. While some students resented that we self-segregated, what they didn't understand was that we just wanted to be around people in places where nobody told us to shush. This gets into some of the problem. Nobody should have had a problem with them self-segregating. Let them. In fact, the further they go away to self-segregate, the better. That gives them more space to be as third world as they want and to be as loud and obnoxious and everything as they want. And it gives everybody else more of an opportunity to have the peace, the quiet, to be able to do what you want to do. You're at an Ivy League school. Probably what most of these people want to do is study. Just an idea. At least that's the way it should be. Like, if you're going to one of these prestigious schools like this, you should be held to a higher standard. I think I did an article. I may have read it. Pretty sure I did. The article from like where Harvard students are upset that they have to actually like do schoolwork, and that they don't get to just have these like wild, crazy, fun college experiences. It's like, yes, that's the reason that you go to Harvard, Yale, like any of these Ivy League schools, is because you are supposed to be at that next level. So you should have to work for that. You don't get the Ivy League degree by doing the fucking state school work. When I moved back to Brooklyn after college, I found that the place had changed. Neighborhoods that had been Polish and Puerto Rican and Black were suddenly peppered with people who looked better suited to my college campus than my working class home turf. Many of them needed the affordable rents because they had opted into glamorous but poorly paying white-collar jobs. Alas, these newcomers hadn't moved here to live alongside us. They'd come to reside. The first time it happened was the night before Thanksgiving. 3 or 4 of us, all people of color, were eating takeout in my best friend's studio apartment. The radio was playing, and we were debating, as we often did, who was the best rapper alive. There was a knock at the door, and when we opened it, my friend's neighbor, a 20-something woman new to Brooklyn, was standing there exasperated. "Did your mothers not teach you the difference between inside voice and outside voice?" It's funny because while she says this, how many times have you, or I know I, many times have told my kids, we're literally 3 feet from each other. You don't have to yell. Like, volume down. There's no reason to be loud all the time. for some reason, that just like escapes some entire demographics. The next time it happened was at a brunch in Fort Greene. The time after that, a newly opened hotel bar in Williamsburg. After a while, I stopped keeping track. The people complaining clearly thought they were trying to enforce a sonic landscape that they deemed superior, but what they were really doing was using shame to exert control over the restaurant, the building, the borough, us. For generations, immigrants and racial minorities were relegated to the outer boroughs and city fringes, but far but free. No one else much cared about what happened there. When I went to college, it was clear to me that I was a visitor in a foreign land, and I did my best to respect its customs. But now the foreigners had come into my shores with no intention of leaving, and they were demanding that the rest of us change to make them more comfortable. The Society for the Suppression of Unnecessary Noise was founded by a physician named Julia Barnett Rice in 1906. Rice believed noise was unhealthy and enlisted New York City's gentry, including Mark Twain, to lobby for things like rules governing steamboat whistles and silence pledges from children who played near hospitals. The group met in posh spaces like the St. Regis Hotel, but Rice insisted that she was not solely interested in protecting New York's upper class. This movement is not for the relief of the rich, she wrote in the New York Times. For the poor will benefit by it fully as much as, if not more than, those who can leave the city whenever they wish. In 1909, the organization celebrated the passage of an ordinance that prohibited street vendors, many of them immigrants, from shouting, whistling, or ringing bells to promote their wares. The ban applied only to Manhattan, though the city had fully incorporated it as the 5 boroughs a decade earlier. Attempts to regulate the sounds of the city, car horns, ice cream, truck jingles, continued through the 20th century, but they took a turn for the personal in the 90s. The city started going after boom boxes, car stereos, and nightclubs. These were certainly noisy, but were they nuisances? Not to the people who enjoyed them. In 1991, the NYPD launched Operation Soundtrap, a campaign in which cops would trawl streets, often in majority black and brown communities, hunting for and confiscating cars with enhanced stereo systems. If they don't turn down the volume, we'll turn off their ignition. The chief of the police department vowed. When Rudy Giuliani became mayor in 1994, he used a cabaret license law to force clubs out of gentrifying neighborhoods, like the Lower East Side and Chelsea. The battle against nightlife continued during the Bloomberg years. New York was effectively codifying an elite sonic aesthetic, the systematic elevation of quiet over noise. In the years that followed, many of New York's nightclubs migrated to Brooklyn, which remained loud and proud. An analysis of 2019 data ranked it the loudest borough in New York. It earned this distinction by racking up the most noise complaints to 311, the city complaint hotline. 311, the city complaint, 2311, the city complaint hotline, which raises the question, was it the noisiest borough, or was it just home of the densest mix of loud people and people who wanted to control these loud people? It's funny that they talk about Giuliani and Bloomberg and the war on loud noises, elevating quiet over noise. You know what also happened during that time? New York was able to get what had at that point been a decades-long consistency of crime getting worse and worse under control to a large extent. New York's crime rates actually came down. Not New York's crime rates seemed like they were down because they stopped reporting them. But legitimately, New York crime rates came down during that time. I'm not saying that it's because they went after people who were being loud. I'm saying it's because the people who were being loud were probably also the ones who were the most criminally active. And they realized if they were going to be punished just for being loud, they were definitely going to get punished for all the other stuff. This was also during the broken windows stuff, and like there was a lot going on in New York during that time, but crime was down, and they were targeting the demographics. Who caused crime? Crazy, right? Crazy. I find many city noises nerve-wracking and annoying. Jackhammers doing street maintenance, the beeping of reversing trucks, cars honking for no good reason. Yet these noises account for a small minority of noise complaints. Nearly 60% of recent grievances center on what I'd consider lifestyle choices, music and parties and people talking loudly. But one person's loud is another person's expression of joy. As my grandmother used to say, I'm not yelling, this is just how I talk. Okay, that's cool. We're also civilized human beings and can talk to each other without yelling. Is that really a difficult concept? I know plenty of very loud people who are more than capable of talking at a normal volume when they're one-on-one with other people. It shouldn't be like being respectful of other people is not gentrification. Is that crazy to think? The Upper East Side of Manhattan, which runs from 95th Street to 96th Street, is one of the borough's quietest neighborhoods. Save for the trips to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I didn't spend a lot of time there growing up. In fact, my first real foray uptown came that summer before college. The woman who'd endowed my scholarship wanted to meet me. I stepped out of the elevator of her Fifth Avenue apartment building in my Sunday best and was promptly greeted by a maid, another Latina. I waited very quietly for my benefactor, a pleasant older woman in a Chanel suit, to join me for tea. For an hour, I pretended to be meek, muted version of myself. No one had told me to do this. I instinctively understood that in this unfamiliar environment, the proper way to express my gratitude was to hush myself. That day recently returned to me when I realized that the same luxurious stretch of Fifth Avenue is also home to the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. Puerto Ricans have been coming to New York since the United States seized the island as a colony after the Spanish-American War. But the great wave of migration occurred in the 1950s and 60s. Hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans moved to the Lower East Side, Spanish Harlem, parts of the Bronx, Bushwick, and Sunset Park, where I grew up. In the late 1950s, community leaders wanted to show their children, many of whom had never been to a La Matria, pride in their identity by coming out of the margins and marching through the heart of Manhattan. Over the years, the parade has grown and grown. It's a loud affair, and I take pride in saying that we are loud people. Is it a coincidence that one of J-Lo's greatest hits was Let's Get Loud? I think not. We love our music, we love to dance, we love being Puerto Rican, and perhaps this is why the parade inspires such discomfort. In the 90s, Upper East Siders implored the city permit office to move the parade to the Bronx, to their neighborhood. A 2003 New York Times story reported that one day a year, the Upper East Side takes a deep breath and prepares itself. Only after Michael Bloomberg, then the city's mayor, made a public appeal did retailers and property owners along the route stop boarding up their windows as if a hurricane were barreling down on the city. Some restaurants and coffee shops still closed for the day. In June, after a 2-year COVID hiatus, the 65th annual National Puerto Rican Day Parade marched up Fifth Avenue. I had the honor of being an ambassador for arts and culture, which meant I got to ride in the back of a red convertible. The event is a big party, or more accurately, 1,000 different parties all celebrating the same thing, being Puerto Rican in the greatest city in the world. Every float, every car, every delegation was playing reggaeton, salsa, merengue, boleros, and Bad Bunny. Everywhere you went, you heard chants of Puerto Rico and No se vende. I waved at all the beautiful people, and when we passed the apartment buildings where my former benefactor lived all those years ago, I shouted out extra loud, "Wepa!" Good for you. Your former benefactor gave you a scholarship so she could feel good about herself, sending a poor Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx to an Ivy League school. You were a charity project, but that's neither here nor there. For 35 blocks, we were as loud as we wanted to be, and nobody could tell us nothing. And then we got to the end of the route. The crowd thinned out, and the blockades ended, and we were met with a gigantic traffic sign illuminated with the words, "Quiet, please." It's not racist to expect people to be respectful of their neighbors, to be respectful of other people in their community. There are block parties and street events and other things that, like, but we go back to, like, the guy that moved from Florida to New York City and wasn't happy with living in a blue state. And one of the very first things that guy points out is, like, as soon as they got there are people, like, screaming at each other in the street, and it's like, and it's not a gentrification thing. It's not racist. It's a class thing. I know plenty of poor white people who have the same problem. I say problem, I don't guess it's necessarily a problem for them, but who have the same problem as what this girl is talking about with her, being Puerto Rican. Like, they're loud for no reason. One of my favorite things is going hunting. And I don't even care if I get anything. We make, plenty of money. I have an entire freezer back there that's crammed full of meat. I have another refrigerator over here that the whole freezer on this one is crammed full of meat. I have a nice big refrigerator in the house, crammed full of meat. I don't need the meat. I hunt because there's something just wonderful about sitting out there and hearing nature and nothing else. Nobody talking, no music, nothing. Just perfect quiet. And I guess I don't know why, but it seems like for these really poor cultures, poor whites included, they need the noise. It's like without the noise, they feel like they're missing something. I don't know. Is it a FOMO thing, or I don't know. I don't understand it. Why poor people in particular have to be so loud all the time. It's not about racism or gentrification. It's not that kind of a distinction. It's a class distinction. I'd be willing to bet her Upper East Side neighbor or benefactor that gave her the scholarship to go to college probably lived in a building with people of color as well, who were all quiet and respectful and probably were worth more than what most of us will ever be worth. I'd be willing to bet that Latina maid got paid a shit ton of money to be a maid for that benefactor and probably lived somewhere that was pretty quiet. I'm not sure why that is. But there is definitely a distinction there. And what you see in the business world is the business world by and large, like especially the places where you're actually going to be paid a lot of money, tend to be a little less loud and boisterous and over the top. When you're having a conversation with a coworker or a boss, you don't want to be yelling at them from 3 feet away. We're all in the same room. Like, we can talk like civilized human beings. And I think that's why people like our author here feel like they are being excluded or like they're being not, what's the word I'm looking for? They feel like they're being targeted when they're in the work environment. And it's because they don't fit into the work environment. And it's just a simple understanding of like, you don't have to yell at me when you're standing right in front of me. And they don't get it. It's crazy. It's like I said, I've had this conversation with my kids. When we had my wife's nephew living with us, I had to tell him every single day, I'm literally right here. You don't have to yell all the time. Like, turn the volume down. Turn the TV down. There's nobody else in the house. You don't have to have the volume turned up so loud that it rattles the fucking windows. Like, there doesn't have to be noise all the time. When I come out here to sleep, I keep the blind on that window closed. I've got a big blind that I hang over the door to cover up that. It is pitch black in here, and there is not a sound. It's perfection. It doesn't have to always be noise. And maybe that makes me a racist or classist or whatever, but it's crazy how, again, it's not a racist thing. It is a rich, or not even rich. It is a well-off versus not. It's a poor culture mindset, and I don't understand it. Maybe that's something that I should look more into. But like the chick makes the whole thing out to be racist, and it's not. It's not like not everything is racist. I'm sorry that you've never been around poor white people and didn't realize that poor people are loud, not just minorities. Interesting. So I don't know if you noticed that, for those who are watching the video, at the very top of this article, it says that this is part of a collection that this chick did. I'm going to look more at the rest of the collection and see what all she writes about, because this was an interesting article. She didn't dig as hard into the racist side of it as I thought she would, but as with a lot of these types of articles, there were a lot of hints of it throughout the entire thing. So I'm going to check out some of the other stuff that she's done through this series, because this was apparently it was a Pulitzer Prize finalist, not Pulitzer Prize winner, but a finalist. But I mean, that's fucking impressive on its own. So I'll check it out and see. Maybe there's some more content out of her stuff that I might want to dig into. For those of you who are actually watching live, I'm going to end this and give me about 10 minutes to go pee and refresh my coffee. And then we will start on part 2 of today's 3-parter, why women are done with dating. Be back in a little bit.